Alright, and one more set of eruptions. This should do it. And down. Yeah! A working eruption build with the Lava Lich set. And what time did we get? 5:28. Pretty good. What's up everyone, and welcome back to another video. My name is Ben Lee. I make multiple videos on Outriders every single week. Tips, tricks, guides, builds, you name it. And I've also started live streaming. It's been going incredibly well and the support has been amazing. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. Also hit that like button. The streaming has been right here on YouTube, so you don't even have to leave the platform. Very convenient. So hit that subscribe button, you'll be able to be notified when I go live. Don't be like Dave here. Come on Dave. You can do it. But with all of that out of the way, guys, this is my AP Pyro Eruption build using the Lava Lich set. It's an interesting set, but if I'm being honest straight off the bat, it does feel like it needs a bit of a buff. Compared to the Ikari set, it's just not as competitive. But if you want something a bit different and you don't want to be using the Ikari set, then this could work for you. It makes use of using free eruptions as well as Faser Beam for a buff to your AP, as well as Overheat to be able to increase your clear speed. It does work to be able to clear CT15 content, so there's no worries there, but it's not going to win any speed awards, and that's not due to lack of skill or anything, it's just the way that the set currently is, or at least the way that Eruption currently is, because the cooldown on it is quite long, but if you can get over that, it's actually quite fun to use when it is off cooldown. But I would consider this a off-meta build just because of using the Lava Lich set. I do actually like the way it looks, and Eruption has a massive impact graphically on screen, which is really awesome, but I'm just being honest with you guys, and I do feel like it could use with a buff in terms of having its cooldown reduced, or at least the Lava Lich set going from a 10% cooldown reduction to more of like a 40% cooldown reduction, just to keep it competitive, because there are times where you'll sit around waiting for cooldowns on pretty much all of your skills, so using cover with this build is actually really essential so that you just don't die. But yeah, for sure, it is very viable anyway, and one of my biggest tests for builds that maybe clear a bit slower than others is that as long as you can get gold on Boomtown CT15, because that map can be quite tough on time, then you're good to go. And there are two different variations to this, by the way, guys. There's one that utilizes Overheat for more of a solo style play to be able to get the clear speeds up faster, because it will help you clear the trash around the map quicker. And then there's also another one which I'd recommend more for co-op play, which is where you're replacing Overheat for Thermal Bomb and using the mod Branded to be able to debuff for your team. So one, going to be debuffing for your team, but also it turns you into a bit more of a Eruption nuke style build. However, in my experience, it is actually quite a bit slower for solo play, so I'd recommend that one just for groups.
Alright, so coming over to our skills, guys, we are using Eruption, Faser Beam and Overheat, and the Lava Lich set is basically made for Eruption and Faser Beam. So we're dealing lots of burst damage with Eruption. We are using Faser Beam as an interrupt, but also to be able to buff our anomaly power with one of the mods we've got from the Lava Lich helmet. And then Overheat was one that I chose to be able to clear the map a bit faster, because with the mods that we're using with Overheat, you can clear the trash mobs, especially like a rifleman, for example. If it runs into the corner of the room, you'll be able to kill it a lot quicker just by running through the map and spamming Overheat. But it's really good for solo runs and will do okay in co-op as well. However, if you want to use the nuke style build, then I would recommend swapping out to Thermal Bomb, and we'll go through some of the mods with this at the moment to be able to debuff for yourself and for your team so that you can nuke things down with eruptions and also help your team out that way. However, the clear speeds solo do suffer with this, so if you are solo, obviously go with Overheat. Coming over to our class tree here, we've gone down the bottom for the Tempest route, and that's mainly to come over and grab like Grave here to increase the explosive damage by 30%. This works for your Eruption, it works for your Thermal Bombs, and also for your Overheat, so it's really quite nice for this build here. We're picking up Phoenix here as well for extra defense, because we don't actually have any defensive mods in the build, but we do also have Mastery Resistance here, which you could swap out for the extra skill life leech if you wanted to. That would be up to you if you wanted to do it. I find that this works quite nicely for me. We've also come up here to get like Wildfire, decrease the cooldowns across the board by 10%, which is really essential because of the long cooldown of Eruption. But then we also come up and grab the Warbuck one here to be able to reduce the cooldown of Faser Beam by 15%, which works really quite nicely as well. There isn't too much flexibility with this, guys. You could take off the Phoenix here and grab something like Extinction to be able to do extra damage when they're below 30% of their health, or you could even get more healing with Chasing Away the Chill. But this is the build that works for me, and this is what I recommend. Coming over to our inventory here, the weapon I'm using is the Funeral Pyre, and I've got Shadow Comet and Fortress on this. Fortress is incredibly strong and does 43% extra damage for all of your skills across the board. So I highly recommend putting that in your build. And this one drops on a death shield, so if you haven't got a death shield yet, it's very, very strong. Fortress is incredible across loads and loads of builds. I've kept on Shadow Comet as well, which is on a 3-second cooldown, and it's one of my favourite mods in the entire game. A really nice feature with Shadow Comet is when you fire once and the shotgun pellets spread out, if they hit unique targets, then it will cool down its own unique Shadow Comets. You can actually cool down kind of 3, 4, maybe even 5 if you get super lucky, and be able to clear out an entire pack of mobs in one shot. Coming down, I'm using a death shield with Fortress and Moaning Winds. You could just put Fortress on a Anemoy, which is where Moaning Winds comes from. You just want to make sure that you empty the magazine and keep it empty, so every time that you swap to the weapon, it will automatically fire off the Moaning Winds, and then when you swap back to your Funeral Pyre, you haven't reloaded, so it's ready to go again. And I've also got Moaning Winds on a Torment and Agony as well. And this gives you a second Moaning Winds because of how strong it is, but also on Torment and Agony, you have the Clip Combustion, which is another reload skill that does damage around you. So it's just a tiny bit of extra damage, but it's not essential because it is only a little bit as well. Coming over to the helmet here, we are obviously using the helmet of the Lava Lich, and we've kept on Ashen Champion, so Phaser Beam inflicts Ash on enemies instead of Burn, but each enemy hit by your Phaser Beam increases your anomaly power by 20% for 10 seconds, and this stacks up to 5 times. This is a really nice mod because it can double your anomaly power, but it also puts these really cool floating orbs around you, depending on how many enemies you hit. So you can see if you've got a 20% buff, or a 60% buff, or if you've got 5 orbs and you've got the full percentage buff around you. It's really quite nice visually, so we're keeping with that one. It's a really important mod for this build. And then on here as well, I've put the increased duration for Eruption, so that does a bit of extra damage, especially to like elites and things. When you fire it off and they're stood reasonably still, they'll get a bit of extra damage from that just by being in the area. Down here on the chest piece, we are using Detonator and Giga Blast. So Detonator halves the cooldown of Overheat, which is incredibly strong and comes on the armor of the Ikari here. And then we're using Giga Blast, which increases the skill radius by 100% just to increase the AoE. Coming down to the pants, we've got Etna, which the skill can be triggered one more time for Eruption, which is really, really strong. And then we've got another one as well in the build that gives us another Eruption, but with these as well, we've got Size Matters. So Phaser Beam increases the beam radius by 100%, and because it fires off in a straight line, it's really nice to be able to get like an extra couple of targets, especially if they're moving out of the way as you start to channel the Phaser Beam, then it can still hit them and it's really quite nice. So I recommend having Size Matters as well. Coming down here, we've got Pants on Fire. So Pants on Fire increases the damage of enemies who were hit by Overheat but did not have any statuses consumed. So this is what I was talking about. It's a really nice mod to be able to clear any trash mobs like Riflemen that run to a corner and you don't want to run back to them. You can just keep spamming your Overheat on cooldown, and because you haven't got any statuses on them, it will do extra damage and eventually whittle them down and kill them, so that you can just speed through the areas as quickly as possible. And then for the second mod, we've got an extra cast of Eruption. And then coming down to the boots here, we've got Frequent Phaser and Captain Hunter. Frequent Phaser is really strong and reduces the cooldown of your Phaser Beam by 30%, and then I've chosen to put on Captain Hunter just to be able to burst down the elites a bit quicker. So Captain Hunter you can find on the gloves of the Cannibal, but also with this, guys, with your 2 purples as well, you can see here I've got Anomaly Power Cooldown Reduction and Skills Life Leech, and I've also then got on here Anomaly Power Cooldown Reduction and Long Range Damage. Unfortunately, with both my pieces, the ideal scenario is you want to have Anomaly Power Cooldown Reduction and Status Power, which will increase the damage of your Phaser Beam, but I wasn't able to find some purples with that, so if you can, be on the lookout for that, because you can make this build even better if you can get the God Roll pieces that you need. And as always, guys, with this, I'll bring up all the mods on screen for the same time for you, so you can pause the video and have a look.
And if you like this, remember to go down and like the video. And if you're interested in the stats, this is them here, so you can pause it again here. But I'll also go over as well the different mods that I would use if you were to do a thermal bomb version to be able to do the Eruption nuke style build and to be able to debuff for your team. So with that as well, you're going to be looking for Anomaly Power Cooldown Reduction and Status Power. I didn't find it again, I've got Healing Received here, but what you're looking for is Fire Frenzy and then be able to put Branded on. So you want to get an extra Thermal Bomb and then be able to get Branded, which is a really, really strong debuff, and they stack. So if you fire 2 Thermal Bombs on one enemy, it goes from them taking 40% more damage to 80%, which is absolutely huge in co-op, and for yourself to be able to take bosses down a lot quicker. And Branded you can get from Armor of the Reforged here. And then the other mod that we would swap out, if I just come over to Zahidi here, you want to take out Detonator here and you want to put on the mod that we've just replaced, which is Frequent Phaser.
As well as that, on your helmet, I would take out the increased duration here, and I would swap that one back over to make sure we've got Captain Hunter in, because that's going to give you an extra 25% damage for your burst. And then over on my gloves here as well, I've taken out Pants on Fire, and I've actually got some gloves here that are pretty nice because they've got status power on as well, and it's got damage absorber, which is one of the mods that I recommend. And again guys, I'll bring up all the mods on the screen for you now, so you can pause the video and have a look at this one being the co-op focused nuke style build and see what works for you. Both builds works really well, so give them a try and just see what you like.
Alright guys, so there's my Lava Lich set builds. As I said, they're not going to be as fast as, for example, an Ash Blast Overheat Akari set build, of which obviously I do have on the channel, as well as tons of other builds now, but it's really good fun to see the massive eruptions coming on screen, as well as actually making use of the Lava Lich set, because one, it looks really cool, but also the fact that not a lot of people use it, so it's good for something different. Just want to shout out for the Discord that we've got going. There's an absolutely amazing community going on there. It's completely free. The link will be in the description if you fancy joining it. There's loads of people in there offering advice with their builds, as well as doing free carries for CT climbing. So big shout out to you guys. Keep up the good work. You're doing absolutely amazing, and thank you so much. Love you to pieces. And if you want to check out more, come check me out on the stream. I stream right here on YouTube. If you like the video, please give it a like, and consider subscribing if you've learned anything. I'll be posting multiple videos on Outriders every single week. And let me know in the comments what you think of this build. Maybe you've got something else that you would prefer to try, or another mod that you think would be amazing. Then let me know. I really want to know. And if you're going to use this build as well, let me know, because I really want to know who you guys are. And I'll leave you guys here with the rest of this run of this CT15 Boomtown that I did. It's not a perfect run, but we're still able to clear the content in a perfectly decent time. And until the next one, guys, I hope you at least learned something, and I also hope you have a nice day. See you now.
bandit leader's taken care of. Your pass is clear. Where'd these bandits come from anyway?
They were insurgents. Defected to our side months ago.